Imagine waking up every day carrying someone else's expectations, their doubts, their drama, and thinking it's yours. Imagine living your life constantly proving something to someone who doesn't even matter in your story. Now imagine waking up and realizing that the only person whose opinion matters is the one staring back at you in the mirror. That's where the power begins. When you stop scattering your energy, when you stop living for applause and start living for yourself. See, the world will try to steal your focus. It will tempt you with distractions, pull you into comparison, and drown you in noise. It wants you chasing validation instead of mastery, showing off instead of building, reacting instead of leading. But the truth is, the moment you turn inward, the moment you protect your energy, the moment you start investing in your growth and holding yourself accountable, you unlock a level of freedom most people never reach. This isn't about arrogance, and it's not about being selfish. It's about understanding that your energy, your discipline, your clarity, that's currency, that's power. And when you focus on yourself, when you build quietly, when you move deliberately, you're unstoppable. Energy is sacred. That's something most people don't realize until they've wasted too much of it. Every day you wake up, you have a limited supply of mental strength, emotional space, and physical drive. That's your fuel. And just like money in a bank account, once it's gone for the day, it's gone. A problem is too many of us spend it carelessly, giving it away to people who drain us, situations that don't build us, and distractions that have no return. When you learn how to protect that energy, you take control of your life in a way that most people never do. Think about the times when you were moving with momentum. Maybe you were locked in on a project, or working out consistently, or staying disciplined with your goals. Your energy was clear, focused, protected. Now think about the times when you felt stuck, drained, or like you couldn't catch a break. More often than not, it wasn't because you weren't capable, it was because your energy was scattered. Too many conversations with people who didn't pour back into you. Too much time scrolling through things that don't add value. Too much space given to negativity that takes instead of builds. Once you understand energy is sacred, you stop treating it like it's endless. Not everybody deserves your time, your mind, or your space. That might sound harsh, but it's real. Some people are just distractions in disguise. They want to pull you into their drama, their gossip, their chaos, because they're not in control of their own lives. The second you give in, you've handed over your focus. And focus is everything. You can have the greatest ideas, the biggest ambition, but if your energy is being bled out by people who aren't on the same frequency, you'll never see it materialize. Protecting your energy means drawing lines, setting boundaries, and knowing that saying no is not disrespect, it's self-respect. There's also a hidden cost to giving your energy away, resentment. When you constantly give to people who don't give back, eventually you feel drained and bitter. You start questioning yourself, wondering why you're exhausted, why you don't have the strength to do your own thing. That's because you let your sacred energy be spent on the wrong exchanges. It's like handing out money all day and then being surprised when you can't afford what you need. Protecting your energy means being intentional about where it goes. You don't give it to just anybody because you know it's tied to your growth, your peace, and your purpose. Energy is not just about physical strength, it's mental clarity too. Your thoughts are energy. Your focus is energy. When your mind is cluttered with other people's problems, when you're worried about opinions that don't matter, when you're replaying negativity over and over, you're wasting energy that could have gone into creating something powerful. Protecting your energy means mastering your attention. You stop giving out free rent in your head to things that don't deserve to live there. You redirect that focus inward into your goals, into your healing, into your craft. That's when your life starts to shift. Another thing about sacred energy is magnetic. People feel it when you're moving with it. When you're disciplined, focused, at peace with yourself, your energy becomes stronger. You start attracting opportunities, people, and experiences that align with that vibration. On the flip side, when you're drained and scattered, you attract more chaos. Protecting your energy isn't just about keeping things out. It's about cultivating what's within. When you guard your mind, guard your time, guard your space, you allow yourself to operate at a higher level. And when you're at a higher level, the world responds. This protection doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean you cut everybody off or move like you're above people. It means you become selective. You know who's pouring into you and who's pulling from you. You recognize when a situation feeds your growth and when it feeds your destruction. Protecting your energy means you value yourself enough to not hand over your power carelessly. It's about balance. You can give, but not to the point where you've got nothing left for yourself. You can help, but not at the cost of your own foundation. Sometimes protecting your energy means walking away quietly. Not every battle deserves your response. Not every insult deserves your attention. Silence itself is energy conservation. When you don't react to negativity, you don't let it control you. You save that energy for what actually matters. In a world full of noise, your ability to guard your peace becomes your biggest advantage. That's why the ones who really succeed, who really create something lasting, are the ones who learn how to say less, react less, and focus more. Look at how most people live. They wake up, check their phones, scroll through other people's lives, argue online, complain, gossip, get caught in petty cycles. By the time they try to do something productive, their energy is gone, and then they wonder why their goals feel out of reach. It's because their energy is being spent on things that don't give them a return. Protecting your energy means flipping that script. When you wake up and invest your first thoughts into gratitude, into planning your day, into movement, you give your best energy to yourself before you give any to the world. You build yourself up before you go out and deal with everything else. Energy is sacred because it's tied to time. You can't get back the hours you spend. Once it's gone, it's gone. And most people don't see the connection until it's too late. Protecting your energy means respecting your time. It means not letting every phone call, every text, every distraction take you off your path. It means knowing that your time is your life and your energy is how you live that life. When you waste it, you're not just wasting a moment, you're wasting a piece of yourself. That's why the people who master their energy seem untouchable. They move different. They calm in chaos, focus when others are distracted, steady when others are inconsistent, because they know the truth. Energy is sacred. They protect it like it's gold. They don't let just anyone handle it. They spend it where it multiplies. They honor it, and in return, their life elevates. Comparison is one of the quietest killers of potential. It creeps in so smoothly that you don't even realize it's robbing you. You're moving, you're making progress, you're building something for yourself, but the second you look left or right and see what somebody else is doing, your whole perspective changes. Suddenly, your progress doesn't feel like progress anymore. Suddenly, the pride you had in your steps turns into doubt, because you're holding your ruler up against somebody else's story. That's the trap. You're measuring a marathon with someone else's stopwatch, and it doesn't make sense. Everybody's life is designed with different timing. Some people might hit success early, some might bloom later, and some might look like they're ahead when in reality they're only playing a short game. The problem with comparison is that it makes you forget your own lane. You stop watering your own seeds because you're too busy staring at someone else's garden. You start judging your day one against somebody's year 10. You forget that behind every highlight you see, there were struggles, sacrifices, and nights nobody talks about. You can't compare what you see on the surface with what you know about yourself because the picture is incomplete. Social media made this even worse. Everywhere you scroll with somebody posting wins, somebody flashing progress, somebody celebrating another milestone. And there's nothing wrong with people sharing their victories, but the danger is when you let that seep into your spirit. It's proof that you're behind. You see their new car, their new home, their new deal, and suddenly you feel small. You forget the fact that your story has its own rhythm. You forget that sometimes what shines bright online is only half the truth. People show their best moments, but they don't show the failures, the debt, the stress, the cracks behind the scenes. When you compare your real life to somebody else's curated life, you're setting yourself up for pain. Comparison steals joy because it convinces you that what you have isn't enough. You could be living a life that once felt like a dream, but the second you measure it against someone else's, you feel empty. That's the trap. It keeps you chasing validation instead of purpose. It keeps you reaching for what looks good to others instead of what feels right to you. You start asking, why don't I have that yet? Instead of asking, am I growing? Am I better than I was last year? Am I staying true to my vision? Running your own marathon means understanding pace. Some people sprint, but they burn out quick. Some people jog steady and end up lasting longer. Some people trip, fall, and still get back up and finish strong. Your pace is your pace. It's connected to your background, your resources, your mindset, your journey. You can't copy and paste somebody else's timeline onto your life. You don't know what they had to trade to get there. You don't know if they're even happy with what they've built. Comparison is a trap because it blinds you to context. You're comparing the outside of their story with the inside of yours. And those two things can never line up. When you locked into your own lane, you start seeing progress differently. Instead of looking at who's ahead of you, you look at who you were yesterday. You measure growth by consistency, by how many steps you've taken, by the habits you're stacking. That's the only competition that matters. Becoming better than your past self. That's how you build momentum brick by brick without losing focus. You stop needing to race against others because you understand the real opponent is your old habits, your old mindset, your old limits. That shift alone can change everything. The trap of comparison also creates envy. When you're looking too hard at someone else, it's easy to feel bitterness. You start thinking they don't deserve it, or you start downplaying their success because deep down you feel left out. But envy is poison. It eats away at your drive. Instead of letting someone else's win remind you that it's possible, you let it make you resentful. Protecting yourself from comparison means turning envy into inspiration. When you see someone doing well, use it as proof that success can be achieved, not as proof that you're behind. It's not them versus you, it's them showing you what's possible on your own road. Another danger of comparison is that it makes you chase things you don't even want. You might see somebody building a certain lifestyle, and instead of asking if that's aligned with who you are, you chase it just because you feel like you should. That's how people end up successful on paper but empty in reality. They ran someone else's race and got to the finish line only to realize it wasn't even their destination. Running your own marathon means being brutally honest with yourself about what you want, not what looks good to the world. When you know your finish line, you won't get distracted by the speed of somebody else. And let's be real, some people are only ahead because they cut corners. They cheated the process, they sold out their values, or they took shortcuts that come with heavy consequences later. If you compare yourself to them, you might feel like you're moving too slow, but in reality, you're building something that lasts. Solid foundations take time. Quick wins fade fast. You don't want to trade long-term peace for short-term applause. That's why comparison is so dangerous. It makes you forget that patience is power. When you stop comparing, you start appreciating. You see your journey for what it is, unique, messy, but yours. You start finding joy in small progress and lessons learned and discipline built. You stop rushing to the end and start valuing the process. You see that the grind itself is shaping you into who you need to be. And once you're locked in on that, comparison loses its grip. You no longer care about who's watching, who's ahead, who's clapping. You only care about moving forward in your own rhythm. That's the real freedom. Knowing your worth isn't tied to anyone else's timeline. Your story is sacred. Your growth is personal. Your timing is divine. The more you honor that, the less you get trapped by what everyone else is doing. Because at the end of the day, the only race you're really in is the one against your own limits. And that's a marathon nobody else can run for you. Discipline is the real currency of success. Everybody talks about dreams, goals, visions, but none of it manifests without discipline backing it. Dreams on their own are free. Anybody can sit around and imagine a better life, talk about what they want, or post about what they're chasing. That doesn't cost anything, but turning those dreams into reality requires consistent payment, and the only thing that pays that price is discipline. It's like the grind's currency. Every rep in the gym, every early morning, every hour spent learning, every temptation resisted, every choice to keep going when you don't feel like it, that's discipline. And the more of it you invest, the more your dream account grows. Discipline is different from motivation. Motivation is temporary, it's emotional. You hear a speech, you see a quote, you get fired up for a moment, but when that feeling fades, you're back at square one. Discipline doesn't care about feelings. Discipline is the muscle that makes you move even when you don't want to. It's what gets you up when the bed feels too comfortable. It's what keeps you working when nobody's clapping. Motivation might spark the idea, but discipline builds the structure. Without it, you'll keep starting but never finishing. Think about any area of life: health, business, relationships, self-growth. Discipline is the thread that ties it all together. You can't build strength in the gym if you only go when you feel like it. You can't stack wealth if you only save or invest when it's convenient. You can't master a craft if you only practice when inspiration strikes. Success comes to those who show up, regardless of mood, regardless of obstacles, regardless of circumstances. Discipline is what separates the talkers from the doers. A lot of people have talent, but talent without discipline is wasted potential. Discipline is also a form of self-respect. When you make a promise to yourself and keep it, you're proving to your own mind that you're trustworthy. Every time you say you'll do something and then actually follow through, your confidence grows. On the other hand, every time you break that promise to yourself, you weaken your own belief. Discipline builds inner trust. And that inner trust fuels resilience. When life throws setbacks, discipline is what keeps you from crumbling. You already trained yourself to keep moving, so you know how to get back up. The thing about discipline is that it's not glamorous. It's not the part people want to post about. It's the early mornings when nobody's watching. It's the quiet nights when you choose to study instead of to party. It's saying no to distractions that everyone else is indulging in. Discipline is lonely sometimes, but that's the price. Everybody wants the reward, but not everybody wants to pay the cost. That's why success feels rare, not because it's impossible, but because most people aren't willing to be consistent long enough to see it through. Discipline also compounds. At first it feels hard. You're fighting old habits, rewiring your brain, building structure where there was none. But the more you repeat it, the stronger it gets. What was once difficult becomes normal, and what was once normal becomes easy. That's the beauty of discipline. It transforms into momentum. Soon you're not forcing yourself anymore. It's just who you are. That's when you know you've shifted, when discipline has become a part of your identity instead of a task. Another way to look at discipline is as a filter. It forces you to separate what's urgent from what's important, what's distraction from what's direction. Without discipline, you get pulled into every temptation, every opportunity, every random wave that passes by. With discipline, you stay anchored. You move with intention. You don't say yes to everything, because you understand every yes is a no to something else. Discipline gives you the clarity to focus on what truly matters instead of scattering your energy everywhere. There's also freedom in discipline. Most people think discipline is restrictive, like it cages you, but it's the opposite. When you're disciplined, you control your habits instead of your habits controlling you. You control your money instead of your money controlling you. You control your time instead of time slipping through your fingers. That structure creates freedom. Because once the foundation is solid, you can build however you want. The ones who live without discipline feel free in the moment, but pay for it later with stress, regret, and wasted potential. The ones with discipline pay now, but they live free later. Every dream has a cost. You can't bypass that. If you want health, the cost is consistent eating and training. If you want wealth, the cost is consistent work, saving, and learning. If you want mastery, the cost is consistent practice and study. Discipline is that payment system. You can't fake it, you can't cheat it, and you can't outsource it. Nobody else can be disciplined for you. You have to pay it yourself, day in and day out. That's why discipline is the currency, because it's the only thing that translates dreams into reality. Even when it feels slow, discipline is working. There are times when you'll show up and see no immediate results. You'll grind, and it'll feel like nothing is changing. But discipline's like planting seeds. You water them every day, and even if you don't see growth above the surface, roots are forming underneath. One day, the breakthrough comes, and everybody calls it overnight success. What they don't see is the years of disciplined watering that made that moment possible. That's why discipline requires faith. You keep paying into it even before you see the return. Discipline also creates separation. While others are sleeping in, you're already moving. While others are wasting time, you're investing it. While others are breaking promises to themselves, you're stacking self-trust. Over time, that gap becomes massive. That's how you get ahead. Not by one big move, but by small, consistent acts of discipline that compound into something unstoppable. The world notices results, but the results only exist because discipline built them in silence. The hardest part about discipline is starting, and the second hardest part is continuing when nobody recognizes it yet. But if you can get past that stage, if you can stay disciplined long enough for momentum to build, everything changes. Opportunities start to show up, doors open, people respect your consistency, and most importantly, you respect yourself. That's the true wealth discipline gives you. The unshakable knowledge that you can depend on yourself. Investing in your growth is one of the most powerful moves you can make in life, because everything you put into yourself multiplies. It doesn't always show right away, but every book you read, every rep you put in, every hour you practice, all of it stacks. It compounds like interest in a bank account. At first it looks small, maybe even invisible, but over time it builds into mastery, confidence, and freedom. Most people spend their lives investing in things outside of themselves: clothes, cars, entertainment, temporary pleasures. Those things fade, they depreciate, they lose value the moment you get them. But when you invest in yourself, it never goes to waste. Knowledge, discipline, skills, health, all of that carries with you for life. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can steal it, and it pays dividends forever. But growth doesn't come by accident. It's intentional. You have to decide that you're worth putting time, money, and energy into. A lot of people drop hundreds on a night out, but won't spend a fraction of that on a course, a mentor, or a book that could shift their mindset. They'll spend hours watching others live their lives online, but won't spend 1 hour learning something that could change their own. That's the difference between surviving and building. Survival spins, growth invests. The ones who grow understand that every sacrifice today becomes strength tomorrow. Investing in